What is happening? I'm N64 Josh, and this is how to learn to battle in Pokemon. Like this is I have no clue about this. We're gonna learn about the competitive scene and how to do this. And I've never I can say I've never battled anybody in Pokemon. I've got my friend Carpet with me. What's going on, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. Real quick, where can people find you if they want to check out some of the stuff you do?
I also stream on Twitch. I stream viewer battles for Smash Brothers, and I've been doing a lot of the Dynamax adventures for Pokemon. But my Twitch is twitch.tv / carpet, spelled KARP_ET, and we just have fun, just like you do. And I have fostered a small little community that I enjoy to play my games with. So.
That's incredible. I love it.
Fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So on the screen here, we're looking at one of your teams that you've used in competitive play, correct?
Yes. So this was the first team that I played with. A big thing in Pokemon is that a lot of people use similar teams. So if you look at this team, it's very similar to other people's teams from the time, because this is an old team. But like there's small changes. Like this team would normally have an Arcanine where the Goodra is, and I replaced it with Goodra. Or this team wouldn't run Life Dew on Lapras normally, but I wanted to run Life Dew instead of a water type attacking move. And this team is there's a move called Perish Song that you could see on Lapras that utilizes a mechanic called Perish Trap, which is the specialty of this team. So the idea is Gothitelle has the ability Shadow Tag, as you can see, and what Shadow Tag does is it makes it so that only Pokemon that are Ghost types can switch out, and other Pokemon can't. And what Perish Song does is it makes it so that any Pokemon that hears it dies in 3 turns, or faints in 3 turns. So initially what you're doing is you're trapping their Pokemon, and you're making it so that they can't switch out, and you're forcing them to faint to Perish Song instead of being able to switch out and make it so Perish Song doesn't affect their Pokemon.
So is Pokemon similar to, other competitive games where there's kind of a meta, and you're gonna see, like you kind of mentioned, a lot of teams might end up looking very similar to this? Is that because this would be considered the meta for that season or whatever?
Well, not anymore, but there will always be a meta. This team was more counter meta at the time, because the meta when this team was out was like Tyranitar and Excadrill, and using Tyranitar to set sand, and Excadrill's already fast, and its ability makes it so that it moves faster in Sandstorm. And like the current meta, I've been looking at it from an outside perspective, but it looks like there's a lot more Thundurus and Tapu Fini. I think you caught a Tapu Fini already, if I'm not mistaken, in your first Dynamax adventure. And the reason it's using Tapu Fini is because Tapu Fini is a hard counter to specific Pokemon, just like Landorus is. And you'll see them on a lot of teams, and you build around it at this point.
So what team would you build, like right now? What would your team consist of?
So I'm going to be testing this team out again before I decide on another team, but I got a couple more teams that I'm looking at, made by other content creators that I've seen or other players. There's currently a team running around with a Ultra Beast named Blacephalon. And it has Urshifu on it that I'm sure you remember from the last DLC, and it has Thundurus on it, which is another legendary. And this team got top 32 in a Wi-Fi tournament recently. So I was looking into that team as well, and I can send you a screenshot of that team as well, which is, I'm guessing, current meta. But it's all up to what you want to do, man. That's the beauty of Pokemon now, because what's changed in between the last installment of Pokemon and the current installment is that we've lost Megas. And a lot of other things have changed as well. But we've lost Megas, and since we lost Megas, what happens is back in the last installment of Pokemon, the way the gameplay worked was you pick a Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, and then you would build a team around that. So the teams would look a lot more similar than they do currently. Because you'll see an Urshifu on a lot of teams, or you'll see Regieleki on a lot of teams, but the rest of the team is very modular. Whereas with the Mega Evolution mechanic being in a Pokemon game, the teams were a lot more similar than they currently are. And they are. It was almost, in my opinion, stale. I never got into it back then. And this game, I promise, is a lot more like. It benefits new starting players a lot more because you can make mistakes and still pull off wins. My first tournament I ever went to with the first team I showed you, I went ahead and placed fourth. And I was playing against people who had been playing since Generation 5. So we've had, including that generation, they've played for almost four generations of Pokemon. And I just went in and started dealing out L's left and right. And they couldn't handle it. But there was also, like I said, it's very up to chance, these games. So there was another competitor at that same tournament that ran my same team with one change. Instead of using the Goodra, he was using a different Pokemon, and he got knocked out in the first 2 or 3 matches.
So I'm a little bit just like kind of like in awe of this a little bit, because I'm just like and confused at the same time, because if everybody's playing similar, if everybody's running similar teams, what do these battles look like? Because I mean, I'm just thinking from like the you do the gyms in the game, and the gym leader is going to have 6 Pokemon, and you have your 6, and then like there's kind of just the back and forth. But if everybody's relatively similar right now, how do these battles go?
Okay, so it's a little different, competitive Pokemon to, well, it's a lot different to just playing in game. In game, you have your 6 Pokemon, right? And you can run through all of them. And some of the gym leaders have 6, some of them have 5, some of them have 4. And there's no timer on the clock, so you have all the time in the world to get through that battle. And you just a lot of players say that how easy a Pokemon game is decided by how fast you can obtain Earthquake, right? Because at that point you could just click Earthquake through the rest of your game. But the way it works in VGC is you're playing doubles format, so you're not doing 1v1s, you're doing 2v2s. And the reason you pull 6 Pokemon in instead of like, the reason you have 6 Pokemon on your team is not to use all 6 of them, as the battles would take a long time and you only have a 20-minute timer. What happens is you pull in only 4 for each match, and it's a best of 3, just like Smash. And what you're doing is you're bringing the whole 6, sometimes to bluff. Like, sometimes I'll bring my whole 6, and I'm bluffing that I'm going to bring a specific Pokemon in. Because you'll see my team, and you'll be like, he has to bring in Sandaconda, he has to bring in this. And I might not bring in Sandaconda, I might bring in Goodra. And so I'm looking at your team, because there's a team preview before the match even starts. I look at your team, and I decide, okay, he has these Pokemon, I think he's going to bring them in this order, and in that case, I'll bring my Pokemon in this order. And just another big difference is whenever you play in-game, if you knock out a Pokemon, the game will prompt you, like, the opponent's about to send out this Pokemon, do you want to switch? There isn't any of that in VGC. So when you take a switch, you lose the opportunity in that turn to attack. But just like Smash Bros, there's a lot of reads that you have to make when you're doing things like this. If you looked at my Lapras, the Lapras had the ability Water Absorb. So what Water Absorb does, and each Pokemon has their own hidden ability and regular ability. I'm not positive, but I think Water Absorb is Lapras's hidden ability. And what Water Absorb does is whenever Lapras gets hit with a water type move, it'll gain life instead of losing it. So, like a big read would be if I see them have a water type Pokemon out and I have my Sandaconda out, which is a ground rock type, he's going to take a lot of damage from a water type attack. So if I read that they're going to hit my Sandaconda with a water type attack, I can always switch into the Lapras that turn, and not only am I wasting their turn, but I'm making a perfect switch in. Or the same thing applies to if I think I'm going to get hit with a normal type attack and I have a ghost type Pokemon, I can switch in a ghost type, and it wouldn't deal any damage because normal type attacks don't hit ghost types. So it comes to a point where you have to make reads on your opponent. There's another move called Trick Room, which, tell me if I'm sending too much your way, but there's another move called Trick Room that's on my Gothitelle. And it's because my team, like I said, since there's 6 Pokemon and you only bring 4, you're not necessarily making a group of 6 Pokemon that work together. You're making multiple groupings of 4 that work well together. So, like, you see my Snorlax and you see my Ferrothorn and my Lapras and my Gothitelle, and they all work really well in Trick Room. But also, my Ferrothorn, Lapras, Sandaconda, and Gothitelle work really well on their own core. Or the same thing, but put in Goodra instead of Sandaconda, still works really well in their own core. And you're making multiple groups of 4 within your group of 6. So whatever issue you have, it's very modular. You just switch in the Pokemon you need for that battle, and you bring in the 4 that you believe will do the best for each of those games out of the 3. And my Gothitelle has Trick Room. So the most important thing in Pokemon VGC has got to be speed. Because whoever goes first is going to attack first. And the way VGC works is normally all of your Pokemon should be one-shotting your opponent's Pokemon. So that's why you have things like Water Absorb, so you can switch in and prevent like losing an entire Pokemon. So Gothitelle has a move called Trick Room, and you can see a lot of my Pokemon are slow. Like my Lapras is slow, my Snorlax is slow, my Ferrothorn is very slow. But if you look at Sandaconda and Goodra, they're not the fastest Pokemon in the game either. Currently, Regieleki got released in this DLC, and Regieleki is now the fastest Pokemon that you can play with.
What? So, but let me stop you real quick. By looking at this picture, I can see that they're slow, or people that are familiar with the series just know that they are slow Pokemon?
People that are more familiar, if you could, like, you can't really pull the only thing that sucks about this rental is you can't pull the Pokemon to look at their specific stats, but I could screen share because I have the team up with me. I could screen share what I have and show you through here their speeds and stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll just move your screen over to the screen here so that everybody can see it. It'll take just a second here.
That's okay.
Go like Discord just got all weird on me. Oh, I think I know. This over. Yeah, full screen. There we go. Okay.
Perfect. So this is the same team that I'm looking at here. I could show you. This is my rental team, right? The same team that I sent you. So if I look at, like, let's say just a naturally fast Pokemon, there's one on a different team that I have. So if we look at Dragapult, right? Dragapult, if we go over to this page, you could see his speed is at 383. Now, there's 2 factors that come into play with all of these stats. What comes into play is you have independent values, IVs, and you have effort values. And these effort values are things that you can change. So if I press X here, you can see that I put my effort values into attack and speed. These effort values are values that you add to your Pokemon through either battling other Pokemon, or you could buy vitamins and stuff vitamins down their throat, and they'll gain effort values in these stats, which will increase that stat in general. And then you have IVs, which IVs are, and there's no perfect way to see them in game, but the way you can know if you have perfect IVs is, oh, my apologies. If you go through the battle tower, after you get 10 wins, you'll get this on the side where it shows you your IVs technically. It'll say best if it's perfect, right? And if you hyper train, which is using bottle caps, it'll say hyper train so that the stat is best, but the difference is you can't move it down when breeding. So you get all these stats as best through either breathing or hyper training with bottle caps. And then you have maxed out EVs and whatever stat you want, and it makes it so that your Pokemon is really fast in this case. So, like, as you see, Dragapult speed is 383. That means anything that's lower than it's going to go before it, and anything that's higher is going to go before Dragapult. But if we look back at the team that I have, there is Ferrothorn, right? And Ferrothorn has a speed of 40. So this is not very good because Ferrothorn is steel and grass type. If he gets hit with a fire type move, he's most likely dead because everything is trained to battle against everything else and kill it in one shot. So fire type moves are very normal to see. In this case, Ferrothorn would be going really slowly, so a fire type move will very well stop Ferrothorn in its tracks. Or if you look at Gothitelle, it's 121. Now compared to Dragapult, or compared to Ferrothorn, it's very fast, but compared to Dragapult, it's very slow. And if you look at this team, it's all like not the fastest Pokemon. You have 58 on Snorlax. So what happens is there's there's this move that's on my Gothitelle, and I could show you that as well. It's called Trick Room. It says the user creates a bizarre area in which slower Pokemon get to move first. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is it flips it right on its head, right? So when we look at Ferrothorn's speed and it says 40, and then we look at Snorlax's speed and it says 58, Snorlax does have a higher speed, so normally it would go first. But even those numbers matter when it comes to it being flipped. It goes in the exact opposite. So if Ferrothorn has a 40 speed and Snorlax has a 58, then Ferrothorn will go first. And this is important in situations where, like, you can run a regular Ferrothorn and it'll be slow, but remember how I was talking about IVs, and these are stats that you get through breeding. Well, if you see, my Ferrothorn speed is no good, which means it has 0 in speed. So it's the slowest a Ferrothorn could possibly get. And it's breeding out Pokemon like this to have a cutting edge makes it so that you can win in situations where if I take this team and my opponent's playing Trick Room, I have a counter to it directly, because if their Pokemon aren't breeded perfectly, then my Ferrothorn will always go first in their Trick Room, even if their intention was to outspeed me by using Trick Room. And you could see any Pokemon I have that's important for Trick Room, it has no good speed in their IVs. The way you do this is you get like Pokemon that have no good speed in IVs and you breed them because it passes things down. My Lapras has no good in attack, and there's a reason for that. Even though it seems like it wouldn't make any sense, but Lapras is a special attacker, right? And you have a mechanic, you have confusion, right? So if your Pokemon gets hit with confusion, it has a chance of dealing damage to yourself. Well, it deals that damage based off your attack stat. So the whole reason my Lapras has 0 IVs in attack is so that he takes less damage. And you get into these very small, minute changes and these very like small calculations that decide whether you can take an entire attack and survive it or not. Same thing with my Snorlax, no good in speed, And the reason I keep reverting to this team to explain is because I've built it, so I know the ins and outs of it, and I can show you specific things that I'm aware of what's going on here completely. Whereas the other teams, I'm still in testing that I showed you.
Dude, I'm like, what?
Right? It's a little it's a lot to get into at first, but it like as you play it, it gets more and more interesting. Another thing that I find very important is you have so you have stats, and you know how sometimes when we go into Dynamax Adventures, or when I was playing with you in Dynamax Adventures, I would sometimes hit the Dynamax Pokemon with a move that wouldn't necessarily deal damage, but it would mess with their stats, right?
Mhm.
And stats are interesting because if you look at my Snorlax, he has a move called Belly Drum. So Belly Drum seems very scary to use as a player because what it does is you exchange half of your HP, but it maximizes your attack stat. So the way this works is you'll get 5 bonuses because I no 6 bonuses because you can either get 6 bonuses or 6 negatives towards a stat, any stat that you have. So that includes your well, not HP. That includes attack, defense, speed, special defense, and special attack. And so what you're doing is you're increasing his attack at the cost of its HP to deal a lot of damage with your one normal type and your one dark type move. But this is a Gigantamax Snorlax, and Gigantamax Snorlax's move, Gmax, can't remember the name of it, but it's a normal type move. And what it does is if you've seen Gigantamax Snorlax, he has a big tree growing out of his belly, right? And when he attacks, there's a chance that he can find berries, or your other Pokemon that's out with him can find berries. And that tree has berries on it. So my Snorlax has a Wiki Berry, and if it's held by a Pokemon, it restores the user's HP in a pinch. But my Pokemon's or Snorlax's ability is also Gluttony. So normally you'd eat a berry once you're at like 25% health, but Gluttony makes it so that Snorlax eats it at half. So what I'm doing is as soon as I proc Belly Drum, if no one hit me, then I'll go down to half HP. Gluttony will proc, and then he'll eat the berry. And next turn I'm going into Gigantamax, and I'll most likely have Gothitelle out and using Trick Room the same turn that I use Belly Drum, so that Snorlax will be going first. And with the bonuses to attack, I'm just dealing unreasonable amounts of damage to each Pokemon, and I'm just trying to get more berries to heal. The reason I bring this up is the way stats work is any stat, like let's say attack, any stat is going to be 2/2. Whenever you're in battle, you'll see this with little arrows. If you press Y on info on your Pokemon, it'll be a 2/2 at normal, right? With no increases, no decreases. And what happens is when it's 2/2 and you get an increase, it increases the top number by 1. And this ends up being like if I get 1 buff to attack, it'll be 3/2. So it's doing a 50% increase to my attack stat. If I get 4, it'll be 4/2. So now my attacks are dealing twice as much damage. The thing is, when I get to 6, which is the max that you get off of Belly Drum and the max that you can get, you're going from 2/2 to 8/2, and you're dealing 4 times damage to what you would normally do. So it doesn't matter if I'm attacking a Pokemon that it wouldn't be super effective for a normal type or a dark type move to hit, because I'm already dealing 4 times damage, and it's Gigantamax, so the move is dealing more damage on its own. And it just lets me sweep Pokemon. But the same thing applies in reverse. So if I get a decrease in a stat, say attack, when it's 2/2 and I don't have any increases or decreases, it'll change the bottom number. So this is a lot more scary because it changes from 2/2 to 2/3 with 1 decrease. and that'll make it so that you're only dealing 2/3 damage, and all of a sudden you're dealing half damage, and then you're dealing 25%, and then you're dealing even more below that. You just keep dropping. So these are things you want to avoid by either having other stat boosts or doing things to prevent it. But in the same case, you want to use these things against your opponent. So that's why a lot of people run like different abilities that do different things. Uh, it's just a matter of how you want to play. I don't get into much of the with this team. I don't get into much of the stat changes, but except for Snorlax. So you could see like Gudra's Sap Sipper is the same thing as Lapras's Water Absorb, but it's for grass type moves. Gothitelle has Shadow Tag, so I can trap them. Ferrothorn has Iron Barbs, which makes it so whenever you hit him with a physical type move, he deals damage back. And Sandaconda has Sand Spit, which says whenever you attack him, he sets sand. And what's going on is like the star player, which I haven't even talked about on this team, is Sandaconda, and he has a binding band. So binding band, item held by a Pokemon. It's a band that increases the power of binding moves. So a big part of the team is you have Shadow Tag with Gothitelle, but you say, okay, well, my Gothitelle fainted. I can't Shadow Tag. I can't Perish Trap anymore because they can just keep switching out their Pokemon. But that's the beauty of where Sandaconda comes in. Since he's Gigantamax, his Gmax move is called Gmax. It's Gmax something. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Gmax Sandblast, and what it does is it's one of those binding moves, so it increases the damage that it deals. It puts you in Sand Tomb, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with Sand Tomb, but if you ever fought a Gmax Charizard, you know how when it attacks you get engulfed in like flames, and each turn it deals damage to you?
No, but I believe you.
Okay, perfect. So he does the same thing with sand. But Sand Tomb makes it so that they can't switch out. It's the same thing as Shadow Tag, but the difference is with Binding Band and Sand Storm Up and Sand Tomb all going at the same time, you're dealing like eighth of the Pokemon's HP to it every single turn, regardless of whether you attack or not. So there's a lot of cases where I'll send out Sandaconda, I'll Gmax, I'll go ahead and hit them with my move, they'll hit me back, and what ends up happening is even though my move won't kill them immediately, Gmax Sandblast, the after effect of having Sandstorm up and having my Sand Tomb on the opponent, they die at the end of the turn anyways. It's over for them, even if Sandaconda can't finish it, his abilities end up finishing it for me. And he's there to handle just your Pokemon that are going to be your walls. He's there to handle stuff like that. If you also see he has Rock Slide on it, a big thing, I don't know if you've experienced this before, but if you like go into a Charizard raid, you got to know your type matchups because some Pokemon have multiple types, right? If you have a Charizard that you're fighting, right, it's a flying fire type. And most people would bring in like a water type, like Blastoise. And that makes sense. He's a fire type, so you want to deal 2 times damage. But you got to think about not only your type matchups in this situation, you want to keep in mind that if he has 2 typings, then there's going to be some like mixing and matching, and you got to make sure that if it's 2 times effective on one type and it's the other type that Pokemon is 2 times resistant, that you're not dealing just regular damage, which the game tells you if something's super effective or not. But it comes down to, and this is not possible, but if Sandaconda has a water type move that deals damage, he can't learn one, but just for example's sake, and then he has Rock Slide like you see, then if I'm fighting against a Charizard, I got to make the decision, do I want to use a water type move or a rock type move? Because they'll both say super effective on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be aware that he's fire flying, and rock is super effective on both of those types, whereas water is super effective on one of those types. So although they both say super effective, a water type move will deal whatever it deals ×2, and a rock type move on Charizard will deal whatever it deals ×4.
Gotcha.
Because you're getting the multiplier from both. There's just these small things you got to keep in mind. Or my biggest issue is electric types are weak to ground type moves, and since this is my first competitive Pokemon game, I made this like mistake too often. Electric types are weak to ground type moves, so sometimes I'll see a Rotom and I'll be like, oh perfect, I can hit this Rotom with this ground type move and it'll deal super effective damage. But Rotom has Levitate as an ability, which means that it's not touching the ground, which gives it the same properties as flying types, where ground types moves don't hit them. So you waste a whole turn and it gets really sticky. But if you want, we can definitely try running this team, and I can help coach you through running like my team, and I'll send you another team as well that you can look at. And if you want, like, another time, we can cover like breeding, because it's not a matter of just going into the wild and catching a Pokemon, which that is how you can do it. Like, you have to do it that way with some of these Pokemon before the DLC came out. For example, Sandaconda's Gmax. Until the first DLC came out, you couldn't make Sandaconda Gmax. Like, you couldn't catch a regular Sandaconda, make it competitively ready, give it Gmax, and then go into battle with it that way. You had to actually catch a Sandaconda that was Gmax and fix it to your liking. So the DLCs helped a lot. But if you want, we can run this team, and I can help coach you through it a little bit.
So I tell you what, we have one question from chat. KS Stock says, how did you first start to learn this stuff? They want to know, like, how did, like, where did you go to learn this stuff?
So I listen to podcasts a lot, including yours, at work, since I work overnight. So when the Smash Bros. Cast came back, obviously I was very ecstatic. But since I work overnight, I don't have much going on. I listen to podcasts, and at the time, the new games were coming out, and I did the same thing with Smash. When the new Smash was coming out, I was like, I need to find podcasts to listen to. Podcasts are pretty cool. So I find the Smash Bros. Cast, and I find, can't remember AV and Peon's.
Beyond the Metagame.
Yes, and I find Beyond the Metagame, and I'm like, oh, these are so cool. I listen to them. And I listened to them right before Ultimate came out, and then I listened to them after Ultimate came out, and the same thing applied here. So I found a couple of podcasts, and I started listening to them. One of it was Puckle, and the other one was It's Super Effective. And I was listening to them before Sword and Shield came out, and then I listened to them afterwards. And then there's obviously a lot of good pro players that play Pokemon VGC, that make YouTube videos and stuff that help. A big example is like WolfGlix, which I think, if I can double check, his YouTube account is not called WolfGlix. It's called Wolfie VGC. And he was considered one of the best Pokemon players for a long time. I'm not sure if that's still the situation. But I also watch if you're looking for teams, you got to find something that you work well with, you can stick to, someone who has the same mentality you have. So like my team was a build off of a team that this guy Moxie Boosted made, and I just prefer Moxie Boosted's teams to like WolfGlix, so I look at him more. But I also look at WolfGlix because you want to know what other people are going to run. I could watch a couple of WolfGlix videos, and whatever I see in the in the competitive game mode for the game online will most likely be a rip of a WolfGlix team, because he's very popular. So whatever he says, people are going to follow. In fact, there was one time he played a prank last year where he said Delibird is the new best Pokemon to use. Delibird is perfect. And then everyone started running Delibird teams, and Delibird was not a very good Pokemon, and Delibird did not rule the meta that day.
I like this guy. I like this guy. This is great.
He's pretty funny. But it's just you just find sources that help you. I originally I did not enjoy like Puckle very much, because they looked at Smogon format, which these are kind of like different formats, but not really, because there's only one true format that you could play on cartridge, and it's VGC, and it's the format that's sanctioned by Pokemon. It's the format that's sanctioned by Nintendo. But they used to look at Smogon format, which is a format you play on your computer where you just whip up a team however you want. You don't have to catch anything or breed anything or do any of the work, and you battle 6v6. Single battles, not double battles. And I couldn't vibe with that, because there's a lot more reads and guesswork and actual like synergy in between playing double battles. But eventually they started changing their content as this game came out, and you couldn't play Smogon format on cartridge. So the beauty of their podcast is they'll have a Pokemon of the week every single week, and they'll be like, okay, our Pokemon of the week this week is, they looked at the new ones. So if and I hope this isn't a spoiler for you, or I hope you don't mind, because once you get into VGC, it like doesn't really work like that. You kind of see everything. But Calyrex, I'm sure you already know. He has his horse, and there's two horses. There's an ice one and a ghost one. So their Pokemon of the week was the ice one, and they'll say, this is our Pokemon of the week, this is why he's cool, and then they'll give you a VGC team that they made around that Pokemon.
Okay.
And they'll have a video of showing you how to pilot that team, which most like people who make teams will have a video showing you how to pilot it, and then afterwards they'll give you the rental code like I gave you, and that'll make it so that you can try the team out for yourself. It's very cool because it gives you another Pokemon to play, or another Pokemon team to try out and play with every single week. It's just the only issue is when you enter an actual tournament, you can't use these rental teams. You have to use your own teams. So you have to build your own Pokemon, which, like, it's not that hard. I could always show you another time how to do it.
So you can play online versus with these rental teams, but not in the actual tournaments. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, let's wrap this first video up. We're almost at 40 minutes, and then we can talk about the second one. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right. Again, tell people where they can find you.
Twitch.tv/Carp, KARP_ET. So Carpet.
Got it.
And we just play Smash, and we play Pokemon, and we just have a whole bunch of fun.
Cool. All right, guys. I've absolutely loved this. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am, and we're gonna keep Carpet as long as he's got time. So stay tuned for the second video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye now.